Why do guys commit acts of violence, intimate partner violence, sexualized violence? And when we say guys, we're talking about men, we're talking about adolescent boys. Sometimes we're even talking about male children. Why does that kind of harm happen? And this isn't to say that women don't cause harm. That certainly also happens. The statistics show that the vast majority of violence, and particularly sexualized violence, is committed by men in our community, by male members of our community. I think this is a very difficult question, and it's important for us to acknowledge that there are many, many conscientious men and male teenagers in our community who take a stand against violence generally and violence against women particularly. I believe that men face, and certainly the research shows, that there are some significant challenges that men face in terms of engaging with women in mutually respectful ways. And some of those challenges have to do with larger systemic issues or cultural issues, the pop culture messages and the bigger cultural messages that we give our young men and boys as they're growing. And they also have to do with relational issues and the skills that we do or don't give boys and young men as they're developing, which leads to adult men who do or don't have certain skills. And so at the cultural level, we see that that women are often objectified. They're often made into objects. Boys are given the message over and over again that that women are not three-dimensional human beings with complex relationships, but that there's a two-dimensional aspect, that women are a prize to be won or taken. But what are we saying to boys and adolescent fellows about what it means to be in relationship with each other as guys, and what it means to be in relationship with women, with anybody really? And that begins with the kind of nurturing that our young men get when they're babies and little boys. Is it okay for them to be hugged and to hug? Is it okay for them to be sad? Is it okay for a boy to fall down and cry it out instead of get up and walk it off? Is it okay for a boy to love flowers or to enjoy texture of a soft fabric? When we shut down the joy in our boys around the things that are true to them, and we tell them that those things are not allowed for young men, we also give them the message that those things are less than, and that anybody who enjoys those things is less than. So we simultaneously shut down our boys, and we shut down their regard for anybody who happens to appreciate things that are beautiful or soft or tender or emotional. That interferes with an ability for boys to relate honestly with each other about what's really going on for them when they're frightened or scared or sad. And it means that it's difficult for boys to relate to girls when girls are communicating that they might be frightened or scared or sad about something. We need to teach all of our children, boys and girls, that the full spectrum of their emotional experience is legitimate, and that it's not only legitimate, but a very practical messaging system from their system about what best serves life. If our children learn the full vocabulary of their emotional experience, they also learn to honor that vocabulary when they witness it in somebody else. If we teach them to shut down parts of themselves emotionally, we also shut down their capacity to connect with somebody else who's in that state. beyond being familiar with their emotional state, beyond being nurtured and cuddled like every primate needs to be, our boys also need to learn basic conflict resolution skills and self-empathy skills, how to self-soothe when something isn't going my way. So, and I would say girls need to learn this as well. There are lots of programs in place in Canada that are showing incredible success around teaching all of our children to engage more fully with their humanity and the humanity of the children around them. And of course, the work of Kid Care Canada, which focuses on the necessity for early nurture for all of our children. We know that children that are nurtured early on do better on every measure, physically, emotionally, and mentally throughout the rest of their lives. What the shape of some of that nurture can take in terms of giving our children language around how to express nurturance for themselves and for other people. Because as our children move out of those early childhood years, we need to equip them to be able to continue to self-soothe and to continue to nurture themselves. And I use the term self-empathy, which simply means being able to look inside of my own experience and say, oh, my throat is tight, my stomach feels in knots. I don't even have a word for that. What's going on for me? I must need something. I don't even know what the need is. Can I just keep company with this distress? I'm in distress right now. Can I just have some kindness for the part of me that feels some distress? So rather than acting out of that distress against somebody else, I learn to listen to my own experience. And once my own experience settles a little bit, I maybe learn from sitting and listening to myself that, oh, I really need some information right now, or I need connection. I imagine in a lot of instances of sexual violence that there is maybe a heightened need for a young man around sexual release, the need for physical contact. Maybe there is a need for play. Maybe there is a need for self-respect. Maybe the boy is being ridiculed and bullied in the wider community for not having engaged in sexual activity yet. So that boy then, if he doesn't know how to self-soothe, will try to meet his needs at the expense of somebody else. And unfortunately, that's going to possibly be another boy, a smaller boy, or a girl, or a young woman. But if our young men have the capacity to notice what's going on, even when drunk, to be able to say, oh my gosh, there's this thing rising up in me, I can hardly contain myself. Can I just have some compassion? Can I just sit with that? Can I show a gentleness to my own self? As soon as we begin to do that for ourselves, we increase our capacity to show some compassion towards somebody else. What I found was with adolescent girls who have histories of experiencing violence and histories of engaging in violence, that tool of developing self-empathy was what they identified as the critical tool for them that shifted what happened next when they were drunk and when they were sober, with their small children and with their probation officer and with estranged parents. So I have come to believe that this capacity to engage in self-empathy is just as important as our capacity to empathize with somebody else. Often people who cause harm actually have a heightened sensitivity to what's going on for somebody else. Often they are people who have experienced harm of some kind. And because they've experienced harm, they have developed this heightened awareness of what's going on around them in an effort to prevent that harm from happening to them again. Often those folks, I believe, are keenly aware of the distress of the person they are hurting, but they have not been given the skill to empathize with themselves, to self-soothe so that they can interrupt that cycle and stop the perpetuation of violence in their lives.